To all LPC live audience from the Facebook as well as YouTube, and welcome all for our LPC 63 Global Leadership Team session. So I would like to just share my screen. Hope my screen is visible.
Yes.
I'm just trying to change the mode so that we can go on to the full screen mode. Yeah, is it visible on full screen mode now?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's visible. Fine. Yeah. Good to go.
So, welcome all the India's largest online discussion platform, Live Pharma Coalition, is a learning and sharing forum that we call as the India's largest online pharma discussion platforms by the three ways nowadays, because we have the largest team with us on the live pharma platforms, 130 plus speakers and people reaching 20,000 people on the Facebook, and 60 plus the companies and the institutions that are connected with us. As we have initiated, we go as executive members for the LPC, and consistency continues. It's the one more key of LPC, all the sessions. By looking at that key, we did the bifurcation into a week 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Week 1 is for the leadership team. Week 2 is for the global team, global leadership team. Today we are here. We will have two sessions. One is in the morning time, one is in the evening time, because the another time it shifts to a different country. That's why we wanted to maintain the consistency. So at 11 o'clock Sunday, yes, we do go live. So session today's global leadership team will be a first session. Followed by that will be week 3 is for dedicated for the leadership, young leadership team. Fourth week is for the academic team, and week 5 as for the women leadership. As you know that this journey of the one person, it has been escalated to a 4 executive members, and now it has become a team of the 24. Here on a week a second, the global LPC, which has been dedicatedly taken care by the Praveen, along with the Praveen, the Hitesh sir, Saurabh, and Ashish sir. They takes care of it. Unfortunately, the Hitesh sir, he is not well, so we are missing him. So that will be taken care by today, the Praveen and Saurabh together while taking it ahead. As I said, we use the line that is the India's largest the online pharma discussion forum, LPC, and the full form we use it at the live pharma coalitions. Because of the LPC discussions Facebook page is reaches to a 20,000 plus people in a 1 week, 1 month time, and Facebook engagement, those people who watch it, it's an average of the 3,000 to 5,000 people, they watch it all the 4 videos. Then the 1,000 plus YouTube subscriber we do have it currently, and as one more additional feathers on our cap, that we have added the mentor program of LPC, which has been the dedicated program for the LPC registered members. So I will request all the LPC audience and the viewers, as well as the speaker and moderator, to be a LPC registered member. So as that can be like the giving the consistency of streaming to all of you. Thanks to Live Pharma Coalition LPC 61 academic, our the leadership teams on the Facebook and YouTube, those who is there the live. And coming back to now the LPC 63, as I said, that the global leadership team. So to maintain our the consistency at 11 o'clock on every Sunday, that we are having today's sessions, and this session we have a 3 speaker, Mr. Himanshu Dwivedi, Mr. Mahesh Pujari, Mr. K. Raghushankar. Along with that, this entire session is managed by our the 2 panelists. One is the Praveen Pandey. He is currently working as a DGM in international marketing for the Greek viewers, and Saurabh Mishra, he is the parallelly co-handled by the LPC as an executive member, as well as both of them, they will be our the panelists today. Saurabh currently he is working as an AGM with Otsuka India. Over to you, both of you, for the further proceeding.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Raman. Today, as we know, it's second week of month, and most of our viewers they are waiting to hear about global part, and many are expecting we are going to learning something new today. Of course, viewers, today we are going to talk about entry and exit of global places. It could be small, it could be bigger country, it could be Asia, it could be African country. But today, somehow we are going to talk about South Asian places. It could be Sri Lanka, Indonesia, Myanmar. Some part it may touch Philippines. So be here, and we are here with good, rich, experienced people. Our first speaker is Mr. Raghu Shankar Kumarswamy. Mr. Raghu Shankar is having 26 years experience in pharmaceutical industry. He started his career from Sri Lanka and entered in overseas international market. He has started with Merck, Sharp and Doe, and the first international company was Glenmark. Ipca Laboratories, then followed by Glenmark, Macleod. At present, he is holding a regional manager for Pit Sambe Pharmaceutical, covering Indonesia too. It's a great welcome for Mr. Raghu Shankar. Now we'll hand over to Mr. Saurabh to introduce our second uh, speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Praveen. Very welcome to all our live Facebook and YouTube LPC viewers who are joining us from different time zones across the globe. In today's session, we shall be talking about the country profile of Myanmar, followed by the nutraceutical business in Southeast Asia, as well as we'll talk about the technical aspects of pharmaceutical business with our speaker, Mr. Mahesh Pujari. So I'm very pleased to introduce you our second speaker, Mr. Himanshu Dwivedi, who is joining us today for LPC-63 Global. Mr. Himanshu brings along with him 16 years of work experience, which spans across both domestic India market as well as the international market. His career started in the year 2004 with Torrent Pharmaceuticals, followed by Cadila. He has worked for more than 8 years for global MNCs like Sanofi Aventis and BMS. He has a rich experience in the cardio-diabetic segment, and in his present capacity, he is working as a Deputy General Manager, International Business for Otsuka Pharmaceuticals India. In his current profile, he is handling the business development and sales of Philippines, Myanmar, Cambodia, and some other territories of Southeast Asia. Mr. Himanshu is an alumni of Gujarat University, and he is currently staying in Ahmedabad. So welcome, Mr. Himanshu, to LPC 63. We are really grateful to having you here.
Thank you. Thank you. Now we are moving with our third speaker. Has a rich experience in different from sales and marketing, and we are in our platform. It's first time we are going to talk about R&D or analytical development in lab or quality control type of topics. So welcome Mr. Mahesh Pujari, who is having 18 years plus experience in field of analytical method development, pharmaceutical regulations, regulatory audit and compliance with analytical development lab, quality control in a reputed company like Cipla, Ranbaxy, Fine Chemicals Limited. He is having various exposure of regulatory inspectors throughout the career. And we are going to learn something new apart from sales and marketing today from Mr. Mahesh Pujari. Welcome, Mr. Mahesh.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. So our session will start with Mr. Raghu Shankar Kumar Sena, who is going to talk something new about Sri Lanka and the area which he has covered. Welcome, Mr. Raghu Shankar.
Yes,
This session hand over to you.
Yes, thank you. Good morning, all. Good morning, LPC team, and good morning, Mr. Praveen and our fellow speakers. Thank you so much for inviting me as a speaker. So I would like to share the screen. So, Mr. Praveen, thank you for introducing me. Just to give a glimpse of what I do. So I have 26 years of pharma experience. I started my career in MSD in Sri Lanka and the Pakistan sector. So I held country manager positions in Ipca, Macleod, Denmark, and I also have led the business operation in Sri Lanka and Maldives for Novo Nordisk, Abbott's, Galderma, Elton Pharma, under a top-notch distributor. and currently I'm heading Asia business for PT Sandwich Pharma. Today, the topic that I'm going to talk is a bit of a trends in pharmaceuticals and developing pharmaceuticals immunity, and then I would like to cover in next 15-20 minutes about the pharma industry stats, game-changing technologies, the drug misuse, expiry of key patents, nutraceuticals industry, immunity, immune boosters, and immune supplements. As we all know, that there's a massive revamp in pharmaceutical industry, and technically not so sound industry now has embraced the technology in a bigger way. And now we are looking at the pharmaceutical industry as a 1.2 billion market by to touch in 2023. And it is believed that approximately 38% of industry experts is expecting big data to have a greatest impact in the industry. And then in the recent past, there are over 66 biosimilar products have lost patency in US. And this is expecting FDA to receive more and more applications for biosimilar products. Let's see the impact of game-changing technologies. It's an exciting time. You know, we have to understand that the treatments are transforming the practice of medicine. The patients are dramatically altering the experience overall, what they're going through, getting the treatment or the way that they look at the entire medicine in a different way. This is all possible because of the impact of the game-changing technologies that we'll be talking a bit of that in the coming slides. As we all know that artificial intelligence have played a major role in the entire healthcare sector, and the pharma have embraced artificial technology, and not during this COVID period, pandemic time, but even before that. And then this is one of the reasons that there is a discover race for effective vaccines. The artificial intelligence have really helped massively. On top of that, the disease identification and the diagnosis. As you all know that the robotics have started major role in even giving solutions to the issues, and then a lot of operations and surgeries are taking place with the help of robotics. And personal treatment and behavioral modification. When I say that, it's about learning techniques as a biofeedback, both negative and positive. As a manifesto, it is helping, artificial intelligence is helping a lot. And also it is helping a big way in drug discovery and manufacturing, and still a lot of clinical trials and new discovery research is evolving in this current period. And further, it's about predictive forecasting. Also, artificial intelligence is helping a lot, like multitude of inputs, values, cycles, trends, and if there are any changes in the data in various businesses, artificial intelligence is helping in a big way. So this is something that the industry has embraced in a big way. And also there's a data to say that by 2025, the artificial intelligence market would hit $31.3 billion with a cumulative growth rate of 41%. So it shows that how much the artificial intelligence is going to embrace the entire industry. We know about blockchain technology. It's a recording system. It has been designed in such a way that it's difficult to change, alter, or even to hack. So it is helping in a massive way in manufacturing and supply chain. Supply chain has been a significant role in this pandemic time, and then getting the logistics through on time has been a big challenge. So the industry experts have come out saying that there's one part in supply chain that has been evolved a lot is the collaboration. This is basically to do de-risk. So when we collaborate, the inventory levels have been brought down, the costs have been brought down. Also, it is by changing the packing, the designing of the products, the volumes could be managed very well with all this happening with the help of blockchain. And also the consumer awareness and public awareness also have drastically increased the blockchain coming into the picture. And clinical trial management, of course, it is there, right? It's helping a lot of authentic clinical trials to come out. And basically, the blockchain technology giving three basic elements to the pharmaceutical industry on the privacy, transparency, traceability. And the industry experts say that blockchain technology has a ledger of truth for sharing complex information to the patients, researchers, stakeholders, pharmacists, and also contract manufacturers and all. So blockchain is playing a major role in this healthcare and pharmaceutical industry as one of the evolving technology. In last 25 years, 450 medications have been withdrawn due to adverse drug reactions. So this has evolved a new concept as precision medicine. And what the precision medicine talks about is it's taken into account the differences of people's genes, environments, and lifestyle. So it has empowered the patients, researchers, and providers to work together to come out with as a individualized therapy, helping patients on safety medications. It also helping as a tailor-made therapy based on the genetic makeup of the patient. So precision medicine is taking a big Another interesting area is about the drug misuse. We all have seen that there are many drugs that have been misused, and prescription drug misuse can have serious medical consequences. We have seen that increases in prescription drug use. So these drugs have been prescribed, but after some time, when the recommended therapy treatment is completed, still patients have been taking as an addiction. So it has been seen in last 15 years, increase in emergency room visits, overdose deaths due to the drug misuse. And there are broadly three categories of drugs have been misused largely. One is opioids, the CNN depressants, and the stimulants. So it is very interesting to see that though there are many drugs that have been misused, these are the broadly three categories of drugs that have been largely misused by the consumers. And it has led to more addiction as compared to some of the other therapy areas. This is an interesting data that I want to provide is about in 2020-21 beyond. These are some of the 10 products which is losing patency in US, and then we are looking at how big the value of these products are and when is the potential generic. There are a few products already the generic has entered, and it is interesting to see out of these 10 products, about 2-3 products are basically chronic therapy like high blood pressure, systolic, hypertriglyceridemia. These products are basically chronic, and then connecting to my earlier slide of drug misuse, and you could see that number 5 Narcan is for the opioid overdose. So due to the addiction, so much opportunity have been created for products like Narcan. And interestingly, if you look at this slide, the volumes, the value of these drugs are bigger than some of the pharmaceutical market. And when we talk about 600 million, it's massive. And when we talk about 1.61 billion in a single product, it shows that how big and it's burgeoning in a recent time. And there are many pharmaceutical markets, total market size is much lesser than this. So it is very interesting. This data is giving us a picture that what are the big opportunities for other drug makers to come out with the copies of these brands. So with the trend in pharmaceuticals, I want to touch on a bit of immunity and nutraceutical as well. And then we can see that it is well known that what are the ways that our immune system is getting affected. And then these are some of there are many factors. And then these are the seven which is commonly, it is observed, experienced by people, the stress and anxiety, alcohol, smoking, and lack of exercise, dehydration, unhealthy diet. And then the stress and anxiety has taken major landscape in last 2 years during this pandemic, and it is affecting a lot in our overall immune system. Nutraceuticals are broadly categorized into functional foods, nutritional supplements, core nutraceuticals, medicational nutritions. And if you look at the target group, healthy people seeking to preserve wellness. So there are these type of people, they take nutrition for this purpose. And people with common health issues like chronic patients who are having hypertension, hyperlipidemia, And then there are specialized infant feeding formulas also available. The examples are given like probiotics, yogurts, cholesterol lowering drugs like coenzyme Q10, how it has been used for hypertensive patients and cardiovascular patients. And when you look at the channels, it is interesting to know that most of the supplements and nutraceuticals have been channelized through supermarkets and internet, that is online business, and pharmacies. Pharmacies are often requiring some medical supervision where they, with the qualified pharmacies dispensing the drugs. So what are how we look at the trends that nutraceutical industry is going to look at? There are 5 trends that will drive the nutraceutical industry in 2021 and beyond. And no, undoubtedly, it's about rise in chronic and non-communicable diseases. We all know that diabetes and hyperlipidemia, hypercholesteremia, all those chronic diseases are and the rise. And then these are some of the reasons that the industry is going to sustain and will drive and thrive in coming years. Rising healthcare costs. We know that globally the healthcare cost is escalating. And baby boom, this is a very interesting point that baby boomers want to enjoy retirement. Unlike those days, now the baby boomers who wanted to enjoy their retirement life and then they wanted to get into the physical activity. Now we see a lot of baby boomers are looking, getting into the healthy diets, and also they are getting into the active physical fitness program. And so it goes to show that how this industry is going to drive in next few years. And also mistrust. When you talk about mistrust, it's a myth. It has been there that conventional medicine, segment of people, they don't believe. This is also one of the reasons why people would love to take the supplements and nutrition. And growing demand for convenience, because people are looking at, consumers are looking at a pill can give me the entire nourishment rather than I consume a particular food and extract the vitamins or nourishment from the food. So everyone is looking at convenience. So that's the reason that the growing demand for convenience is also increasing, which will increase the nutraceutical industry in time to come. When we look at the recent past, vitamin C supplements posted dollar growth 19% for the year ending in March, and vitamin D. So these all have massively happened in last few years, and we have seen that there are pharmaceutical companies have started vitamin C as a big manufacturing project, barring the other pharmaceutical manufacturing projects. So it goes to show that how much vitamin C consumption. I know some companies that they never thought of manufacturing supplements or nutraceuticals. They have started the project in last 1 year with manufacturing vitamins, vitamin supplements with zinc, and so on. So this is basically due to the pandemic, how it is helping the entire immune system and boosting the overall health. Elderberry is also considered as an immunity superstar, and then it has been observed that the supplements which contains elderberry fruit, the sales have gone to about 200% for the past year, 368% for the 4th week of COVID period, as basically it gives antioxidant and vitamins property. Apart from that, selenium, probiotics and prebiotics also helping in a big way as an exciting opportunities for the immunity. This is a very interesting study. Pharmavite is a global supplement manufacturing drug company, and they have across the globe they have conducted a study to show that during this pandemic time, 62% of the pharmacies have compromised their overall health in catering the consumers beyond their normal working times. So apart from catering to their prescriptions, they are seeing the footfall have been increasing drastically for consumers asking for overall supplements and nutraceuticals supplements apart from their normal prescription which they are consuming. So when they walk to the pharmacies, despite their prescription drugs which they routinely take, they also have inquired a lot about overall support of vitamins, what are the products are giving overall support, what are the other nourishments and supplements will give bone support, digestive support. So it has put a lot of pressure on even the consumers. I'm sure that my fellow speakers and colleagues also will witness this coming from different countries. Now, IQIA, the formerly IMS, also going to do the same research and find out what are the other reasons and how much this percentage is likely to improve in coming months. Because the salesman in the in the pharmacy is under tremendous pressure in catering. So this goes to say that how much of immunity has taken a big role, and how people are considering boosting the immunity is inevitable in this pandemic time. Taking nourishment, taking immune boosters such as vitamin C, D with zinc combinations, and bone support, calcium, D's, all those things are going to help to boost the overall health system and overall immunity in order to produce more immune cells and to grow the antigens. So this is about my presentation, and I would like to thank for giving me this opportunity, and then I would happy to answer any of the questions coming from the audience. Thank you so much.
Uh, it was very nice, insights. Even many
you,
things we are not aware. We are aware, but we have never concentrated. We can say in this way.
Thank you.
And especially about AI and ML uses. This is true. Now the US of AI is, keeping a major and important role in pharmaceutical industry. Drug misuse is again. I think many of viewers who are watching, they also is the part of somehow. But yes, they're the part of that. Now people, if they are suffering with, cough and cold, they are just utilizing cetrazine or levocetrazine without any prescription.
Yeah.
They are not going to talk to the doctor. So this is the best example of drug misuse, which you have covered.
Great.
And many of viewers are appreciating your point where you have mentioned about 5 trends that drive nutraceutical market in this global part. And of course, how this is the more important. They have covered about the point baby boomer.
Yeah.
That is really important, and many people are appreciating online. Even we are getting some messages on WhatsApp personally. Then yes, vitamin C, vitamin D, and zinc has been utilized by almost everyone, either by prescription or by Chola Chap suggestion. But yes, this is a boomer. We have found almost 368% growth in even Indian industry, in the pharmaceutical for particular days. And this is of course a bad, but the fact about 62% of pharmacists, they are compromising their health. So this is really a nice covered things about your territory, Mr. Raghu Shankar. Some questions are still on the way. What we'll do, we'll collectively start asking questions in the latter time. And I'll hand over this to Mr. Saurav from here. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Bori.
Thank you, Praveenji, and Mr. Raghu Shankar, thank you for a very informative presentation. Before we move on to our next speaker, I just want to have a very quick response from Mr. Raghu Shankar, since he mentioned the use of technology in pharmaceutical business. I would be particularly interested in the blockchain technology, because in pharmaceuticals, a lot of confidential information is the crux of pharmaceutical industry. We deal a lot of patents related to processes, to molecules. So it is difficult to comprehend the idea that the blockchain system is a system where information is stored and it is accessed by a lot of people. So can you substantiate on this, that if possible, with the example that how blockchain is a reliable technology platform for pharmaceutical industry?
Yeah, though Mr. Saurabh, it has been embraced, still it is evolving technology. So as per the book, it is giving 3 elements of direction to the pharmaceutical industry, but still there are practical negatives there. And when you say it is access also, but then one thing is it has been authenticated that it is difficult to act or change. So that should be an area that it should be helping the companies and industries to move forward. Maybe there should be some modification happening, and then how the board, the company board, looking at the overall thing in accepting the blockchain. So it's an evolving thing, and then there are a lot of new courses, and then new trends are coming up in blockchain. So it is something that it has to be imbibed in coming years.
Thank you, Mr. Roshna. I understand that the most reliable thing is that it is difficult to retrospectively change any information in blockchain. That is the most important aspect.
That's the most important thing.
Exactly. Okay, thank you, Mr. Raghuvankar. So we quickly move ahead with our next speaker, Mr. Himanshu Dwivedi, who will be sharing with us his experience and current situation regarding Myanmar in Southeast Asia. Over to you, Mr. Himanshu.
Thank you so very much, Mr. So, for giving a kind introduction. And before I start my presentation, I would like to give my regards to all the viewers who are watching us live. So, the moment we talk about the Asia, basically Asia is divided into two kinds of economies. One is which represents the stronger economies. Second set of countries which represent the weaker economies. The countries like Myanmar, Cambodia, Vietnam, and Philippines are those countries which falls under weaker economies. So, as and when you decide to enter in weaker economies, always remember the instruction written on the glass. Having said that, let me give you the brief flow of the presentation here. We'll be talking about the brief history of Myanmar as well as the current status. This will tell us the threat, the potential threat which is present over there in Myanmar. Followed by, we will see the Myanmar strategic location. So we'll be discussing bit amount of data as well as its geographical location in Southeast Asia. For the people who wants to invest in healthcare sector, I'm sure they will be searching for an opportunity. So the opportunity will be discussed in healthcare sector. Now, being so many companies who are trading till now, they have decided to, or most of them have decided, or some of them wants to enter in Myanmar. So we will see the scope, what are the scopes available. Followed by all these 4 points, we will see the option of entry, that how can we start the business, and then we will conclude the session along with regard to my subject line, that is whether we want to enter or exit from Myanmar. So let me begin my presentation along with a brief history of Myanmar. The country which got the independence in 1948. Between 1948 to 62, there was a democratic governance, under which there are 2 major factors which has happened. One, there was a political instability, and second, there was a huge conflict between ethnic groups, and this set the stage for the army to enter in. So army entered in 1962. From 62 to 2011, almost 5 decades, they ruled the country. And major 2 happenings which I would like to highlight and emphasize upon. First and foremost, what they did is nationalization of all the private institutes. So practically, country was closed for the foreign investors. Second thing which they did, and still Myanmar is paying the penalty, they closed all the universities. So nowadays it is very difficult to find the talent pool in Myanmar. So this is the point which correlates with the talent pool as well as the bad shape of the economy. Now, moving towards 2011 to 20, it's again a democratic era in which liberalization took place. And under this era, the economy of the country got flourished. Most of the companies came into the market, invested a lot, and to a certain extent, the talent pool which is available in Myanmar has improved their capability. So from here, I will stop my talk, and in last slide, we will be discussing the latest current affairs which has happened on 1st of February 2011. Alongside, if you see a survey which was conducted by BIT in 2018, and being a businessman, you'll be surely interested to know that how the political transformation as well as economical transformation has happened under the democratic era. So they have rated Myanmar at 3.38 on the scale of 1 to 10, and governance index, which they have given, is 3.97, ranked at 92. So put together these two factors, I'm sure our viewers could able to find the potential threat. So let's move towards strategic location. So Myanmar is located in Southeast Asia, sharing its border along with India, China, Thailand, Bangladesh, as well as Laos. The population of Myanmar is roughly around 56 million. Major cities, if you are talking about, then Mandalay and Yangon are the major cities of Myanmar. And if you talk about the capital, the political capital is Naypyidaw. All put together across the region, if you see, the most prominent religion is Buddhist. And till now, I will refer the era of 2011 to 2020, Jan 2021, it was a democratic republic. Here you can see the strategic location of Myanmar, since it is sharing its border along with India, China, Thailand, Bangladesh, as well as Laos. So I'm sure the viewers must have noticed that the location is pretty much strategic, so that land transportation can be done very easily through one of the two major manufacturers across the globe, India and China. So after seeing its strategic location, let's move towards the assessment of the opportunity. In healthcare sector, there is a vast opportunity. I would like to draw your attention on two major points. First and foremost, the healthcare expenditure. Percentage healthcare expenditure to its GDP is very low, followed by out-pocket expense. Out-pocket expense is very, very high amongst all Southeast Asian countries. So this creates a pressure to the government to take the international donations from the agencies like UNICEF, UNFPA, JICA, WHO, and DFED. Now, here, the opportunity of manufacturing, you can see that the sector is really underdeveloped, which represents considerable amount of the opportunity in manufacturing sector. Now, point number two, the moment we talk about the healthcare infrastructure, so number of hospitals around 1,300, 7,000 private clinics are there. If you talk about the supply chain and logistics, still the country is at a very new stage, and it requires huge improvement in terms of storage of the drugs as well as transportation. So clubbing these 2 points together, you can see there is a huge opportunity for hospital chains and the companies which provides the distribution as well as logistic support. So from here, moving towards point number 3 or opportunity number 3, while assessing the healthcare sector, the manpower. There are total around 20,000 registered doctors across Myanmar, out of which only 4,000 are doing active practice, and most of them are situated either in Yangon or Mandalay, the major cities. The paramedic staff, if you see, it's roughly around 32,000, which got registered, and midwives around 22,000. So if I am clubbing these 2 points together, so the opportunity for the companies who are associated with academics and who train the medical professionals is very, very huge. Apart from these 3 opportunities, just for the information of viewers, regulatory department, it comes under MOH, not so robust, sometimes very unpredictable. Even you'll be surprised to know that, ADR and CQA guidelines are not being followed judiciously in this country. Apart from that, recently they have updated the registration process and they have launched the online portal, but it is not well accepted by the people. So now you have already seen, if I would like to summarize this slide, we have seen the opportunity for the hospital chains. We have seen the opportunity for healthcare infrastructure companies, and we could able to see the opportunities for the companies who provide the logistic support to pharmaceutical industry. So after assessing the opportunity, let us try to find out the scope. So the market size is roughly around 550 to 600 million. If you are going to see the import data of Myanmar, it will be reflecting around 120 to 150 million US dollars. The reason being that infiltration via borders are very, very much prominent. This market gives us the opportunity to grow with around 10 to 12%, between 10 to 12%, because if you see the last 5 years, the industry has grown with a very rapid pace. Now, for pharmaceutical company or the people who wants to enter in Myanmar, definitely they will be assessing the disease burden, and then they will decide what kind of therapy with which they want to enter. So once upon a time, there was a huge gap between chronic and acute diseases. But with lots of continuous medical education and development of diagnostic tool in Myanmar, now the chronic and acute segment, the distance has narrowed down, and nowadays it is almost equivalent. So the major diseases which are causing the deaths nowadays are more of a chronic, like coronary vascular disease, diabetes, asthma, Alzheimer's, followed by infectious disease. Because in this part of the world, still malaria and TB kind of infections are most prevalent. So here, let me give you some brief idea about the local manufacturing. So till now, till 2011, there was only one company which was catering the need of the entire country with around 20%. The name is MPF, which manufactures around 180 products. But during the era of liberalization from 2011 to 2021, some of the Indian multinationals also invested in Myanmar and they opened their plant, and 2 of the local entities have also received the approval from the authorities, and 1 is under assessment. So for manufacturing per se, till now government was liberal and they were providing, the approvals to have your own manufacturing facility. As I said in my previous slide, while we were discussing the healthcare sector, the country is majorly dependent on the imports, because the current infrastructure hardly caters 20% of nation need. So major exporters of medicine and are India, Thailand, Pakistan, China, followed by Indonesia, Malaysia, and France. So again, I would like to remind you the strategic location, the map. So the countries which are nearer, right, to Myanmar, they have very good access within the Myanmar for medicine. The market research, if you talk about, there is absence of any reliable agency, and sometimes it becomes really very difficult to estimate the market dynamics and the prevailing trends in disease area. Major markets, if you talk about most of the sales of pharmaceutical sales, drug sales is concentrated between Mandalay and Yangon. Roughly around it is 60%, and 40% contributes to rest of the nation. Major MNCs, you can see Abbott, Roche, B. Brown, FK, Sanofi, and Eisai, Ajinomoto, and Takeda are present in Myanmar, not with representative or legal office. however, along with major distributors, multinational distributors. So this gives us a hope or scope to assess and enter in Myanmar. So after seeing the opportunity, strategic location of Myanmar and scope, let us see how can we start the business model. So most prominent business model in current situation is a distributor driven business model in which importation, distribution and marketing will be done by a local appointed distributor. Or else if you want to have your own brand building, you can have your own rep office or you can have your own branch office. If you want to have your manufacturing plant, government during this liberalization, government has given the rights for foreign entities to have 100% own subsidiary, or you can, establish joint venture company. This will enable you to manufacture, distribute, and market the product. So this is very vital element while you are entering into Myanmar after due diligence and selection of therapeutic area. Now, once you have decided that this is the therapy where I have to enter with my product, the product registration is very, very important in Myanmar nowadays. Earlier also, but nowadays it has been of paramount importance. The first and foremost, timelines. So timelines are roughly around 2 years, 24 months it takes. The cost of registration would be around 830 US dollar plus lab fees, plus if you have appointed a local consultant or you have given the rights to local distributor to register on behalf of you, it would be around, say, between 1600 to 2000 US dollar. Once your product is registered, you can go to the IPR department and register your trademarks. So after this slide, I'm sure so many of us wants to enter, but while entering into the Myanmar, you need to have a proper update of current affairs. On 1st of February, there was a coup. Now democracy has been ruled out. So many international authorities are criticizing and giving the warnings. Businesses are stopped. Mass protests are happening across the country. So this will definitely give the bad impact. And why it has happened? Because history repeated again. So after democracy, military regime, then democracy again. It's a military regime which took over the power of democratic elected government. So moving towards my topic, whether we want to enter, exit, or we have to wait. I believe that neither you need to enter currently in current situation, nor you need to exit immediately, but you have to be vigilant and you have to be ready because we don't know where the tilt will move. So wait, watch, and be ready for the changes in Myanmar. With this, I would like to conclude my presentation. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Mr. Himanshu, for your detailed insight on Myanmar. Myanmar is in news since few days, and it was really great to have you on board so that we can understand the latest developments there. What we understood from your discussion and presentation that the geopolitical and the geostrategic situation of Myanmar is very fragile. We have seen the phases of democratic rule as well as a military dictatorship there in Myanmar, and which has keep everyone at their toes. It is very difficult to predict. The pharmaceutical market has good opportunities. It is still in the very nascent stage, I would say unstructured stage. The imports are up to the extent of 80%. Local manufacturing is very low. And the recent regulations from the government has allowed to have 100% own subsidiary for a foreign entity to have in Myanmar. So that is a great development. And we believe that this is the reason why pharmaceutical companies who have experienced success in the other premium markets of Southeast Asia have now started to focus on Myanmar. But as you mentioned, the catch is the political instability in Myanmar. But what we believe that even with this political instability, this is not new to Myanmar. It has been experiencing it since 1962. But one thing is remarkable from the data that we have mentioned that yes, the pharmaceutical market is still growing. So opportunities are there. We have to be very cautious while trading in Myanmar for any other opportunity. Thank you, Mr. Himanshu. We have a question from our one of our Facebook audience, Mr. Shiv Shankar More. He wishes to understand what are the opportunities of cosmeceuticals in Myanmar, especially the skincare products. So, Mr. Himanshu, if you can.
Yes. It is very interesting. I would like to draw your attention because many a times what happens that we have so much of information, right? But what would be the interpretation of those information? So the country with weaker economy, percentage of healthcare expenditure to its GDP is low. At the same time, out-pocket expense is high, right? So if I want to tell you to interpret the situation, right, for the therapies which are actually, how to say, it's not mandatory, right? What would be the market? So my answer is for Cosmo. I mean to say the products which are related to cosmetic industry. Still, we have to wait because the number of people are very low. Premium customer, yes, you can charge high, no problem. Like like Botox. So the people are more, you can charge high, but if you see the overall volume, it's still low.
Thank you, Mr. Himanshu. We have some more questions. Probably we'll be taking it at the end of the session. So I would now request Mr. Praveen Pandey to take over the discussion. Mr. Praveen.
Thank you, sir. We have one more question from Mr. Himanshu. It's related with Myanmar regulatory part. Hope you can cover that. The gentleman is willing to know if his product is registered with X client importer, but he is not going to get any business since 3, 4, 5 years. Then how he can cover up that product? Either he can again re-registration with different name, or can he get the same product transferred from one importer to another?
Option number 1 is not at all permitted if the manufacturer is same. Option number 2, he can go with, but it is really very, very difficult in Myanmar. There will be, the only second option is viable in current situation. The option number 1, I don't think so.
One question from my side, which I am willing to know. Is there the fact that in Myanmar, first we have to register as a product name, then rest process like sample and dossier, everything goes parallel, or first we have to provide dossier, then the brand name?
Let me give you the brief about the registration in 1 minute, right? First and foremost, you have a product, right? You have a dossier. ACTD dossier is required, right? You need to appoint a local importer, right? Or you need to hire a consultant. You have to give the letter of authorization to either of these two, right? They will be going to the FDA along with the application, right? Around 500,000 chat is the fees for application to the FDA. They will be giving the application to the FDA. After which, right, there is a process called preview, right? At the time of preview, you need to again give around 300,000 chats in a local currency. In between, while assessment of that product, right, FDA will give you import license, right, to import the number of samples. Here, again, there is a catch, right? If your homework is weak, right, and if you have already predicted that this much samples will be required for the assessment, then you might be wrong most of the time, because it is very typical. How to say, it is very typical. Sometimes they will say, okay, we require 50 samples to be imported for the assessment. Sometimes for the similar kind of product, similar range with other company, they might say we require 150 samples, right? So now after sample assessment, first they will give the import license, right, to the LOA holder. LOA holder will import those goods, will again submit to FDA. Once it is okay, right, it will go under preview. Then you have to give the fees along with your product registration. So this is how the whole process is. It takes around 2 years.
Thank you so much. It was for my knowledge. Now we are moving one question to Mr. Raghu. The person has joined recently. His name is Omkara. He recently joined one company and looking after Southeast Asia. He is willing to start a fixed importer and marketing plans for Indonesian market. So he is willing to get some information from you, like what is actual protocol, because if compared to Philippines, Myanmar, even into Sri Lanka, there are many Indian companies, but in Indonesian market, still there are very less Indian companies. So what are the restrictions which is mandate to stop Indian pharmaceutical company to reach over Indonesia?
Yeah, so Praveen, so answering the audience question, Indonesia market is a self-sufficient market. It's like we have to compare with India. So when we compare India, in India, except multinationals, other transnational companies cannot enter Indian markets because we have, so it's a big market and then so much self-sufficient. Similarly in Indonesia, so it's a $6 billion US market. There are about 250 manufacturers are there in Indonesia, out of which 50 companies are multinationals. Like multinationals, they have operation like in Sri Lanka, Myanmar. So apart from that, there are about 200 manufacturers, and then this is one reason that there are entry barriers. They discourage other transnational company to enter the market, but then if there are any specific product, now in recently Rentisua has been talk of the town, and then there are some Indian companies that have trying to venture with some of the Indonesian companies, and they have approached us also. So likewise, there are specific products, for example, maps, one or two specific maps. There is some possibilities there. So other than that, it's quite challenging to enter the Indonesian market, I would say.
So what your suggestion, which country should be the first easy to invade for marketing, drug registration parts?
Okay, so I think they can start with, if you take any Indian companies, one of the first four more markets would be Sri Lanka and Myanmar. The reason is both these markets are promotional markets. So I have experienced that for many Indian companies first come to Sri Lanka, then they go to Myanmar. So they can try that. Sri Lanka, Myanmar, still it is it's a regulated market, and then there are regulations are becoming more and more stringent, but still they can try with Sri Lanka, Myanmar, I would say.
Thank you so much, Mr. Raghu.
Yeah, thank you.
Still, we are holding some question, maybe we will keep it loud. And now we will move to most awaited session of Mr. Mahesh Pujari, because the first time we are going to talk about R&D and tool method development on our LPC session platform. So welcome, Mr. Mahesh, and this is session to you from here.
Yeah, great morning, everyone. And thank you for LPC, and thank you to all the speakers and panelists for being a part of such a wonderful session. It's been a most refreshing session. So yes, I'm going to speak today about overview about the global challenges, global leadership challenges and opportunities at the same time. What are the opportunities in R&D? So basically, if you want to talk about myself, my pharmaceutical industry career began over 2 decades back. That time the industry was booming with the fantastic growth of pharmaceutical giants. Of course, IT was also one of the sections, but then pharma and IT both were booming at that particular. So it was one of the most desired professions to be in, and that actually encouraged me to be in this field. So lots of transformation have been happened, over the past 20 years, And if we talk about the challenges of non-robust, depleted R&D pipeline, shrinking of R&D budget, patent expiration, relentless pressure to control the medicine cost, increased scrutiny from health authorities. I mean, these are the few of the challenges which we need to mention. So to cope up these situations while staying compliant, the leadership expectation bar has been considerably and consistently raised throughout this period, with all the pharmaceutical companies. So I had the good fortune to work with, both phases, like the inner side or the outer to the outer side, like you say, or you can say maybe from the R&D to the technical one, because I was working in the industry for the past, 10, 15, 18 years, and then in last from 2018 onwards, I have set up my own consultancy, so more of a technical thing. So I mean, through the different phases of my life, I am just trying to put together, my personal views and interpretation of leadership in pharmaceutical industry based on my various exposure. And also, I'm going to talk about, the various opportunities, upcoming opportunities in R&D perspective. So this is what I'm going to speak today within this particular. So maybe for the first 10 minutes, I'll speak about the leadership, and the next 10 minutes, I'll speak about the R&D. I am not going to share, I mean, I don't have any screen to share. There is no presentation. So whatever it is, it's going to be a straight talk. So, I mean, as I said, regarding my experience, so I came across few leaders who were, stellar performances, highly respected frontline leaders, and moved up the chain of command extremely fast, either, within the same organization or across the organizations. So I had also opportunity to work with several leaders who have had all the essential attributes to sail through the tides of changes, but did not have the career progression path that they expected, and had moved to, other ventures. I found that, one thing I found that, irrespective of which pharmaceutical company they work for, there were certain common traits within the successful leaders, exceptional leaders, and, that is one commonality which being observed within all the successful leaders. So I've made a small effort just to capture the general themes and the commonality of the leadership expectations that are considered to be, the key survival elements in the pharmaceutical industry. In the face of earlier mentioned challenges, different companies, may associate different terminology specific to them with leadership, but the basic building blocks for a successful leader are very similar across the industries. So I would like to focus upon the few expectations, leadership expectations that have evolved over the past 20 years, and also the current pitfalls in the pharmaceutical industries. So basically, if we talk about, what differentiates pharmaceutical companies in the relative rate of success is, if we talk, all top 10 global pharmaceutical companies have more or less similar resources in terms of global presence, like, scale triple, R&D budgets, etc. So what really differentiates one company from the other? It's basically how many exceptional leaders a company possesses within the organization, who, consistently demonstrate all the core leadership competencies. It is the leaders who provide the necessary edge to an organization and make it as a trendsetter or set it apart from the rest of the competitive. You know, so a leader can be a manager, but the reverse, may not be always true. Similarly, it is also true that, when you compare success of leaders as individuals, so I mean that's the most common observation that, I noticed that two individuals, if they start the pharmaceutical career at the same time in two different companies with incomparable leadership role, in last 5 years down the road, one individual moved to several steps higher, and the other person still remained in the same position. So the differentiating factor here in this case would be the more successful leader demonstrated all the essential leadership attributes more visibly than the other, happened to be at the right time in the right role during the succession planning, had a diversified background by transitioning across the different functional roles, and worked for the organization which was flourishing. So leaders may need to, maintain the inner cycle, but so there are various complex factors, I would say, which, interaction that would lead a progression of a leader in an organization. So, but when we talk about what are the potential, derailments factors for leadership in the pharmaceutical sector, so I came across one, white paper which titled, the leadership challenges in the pharmaceutical sector. This paper talked about, what was the critical capabilities of missing leadership talent and how they can be developed. So in this article, based on massive benchmarking study within the pharmaceutical sector, The most common strength and pitfalls of today present leaders were reviewed. The critical leadership competencies are, well aligned within the collaborative relationship. So collaboration is the key for regarding which I'll also again speak further. So the survey indicated that most dominant causes of failure of current pharmaceutical leaders is an overlay of narrow function orientation, meaning the individuals really literally struggle when they are asked to take up more general leadership roles from their comfort zone. So moving out of the comfort zone is something which is still considered as a very rigid thing. Nobody wants to move out of the comfortable zone and of the functional silos. Although departmental directive may require a leader to retained within the same organization prospectively, it is ultimately beneficial for a company as well as an individual leader if the organization offers opportunity in a zigzag career. Zigzag career, what I mean to say by a zigzag career is you can actually move both laterally as well as vertically. So it allows the leader to develop a company-wide broader perspective and cross-functional collaboration across the people. So when we talk about cross-functional collaboration, so it gives a diversify your background and taking up into different roles throughout your career as opportunities arise. So the top four leadership derailment factor, if you talk about in order to decreasing priorities, would be difficulty in building a team, failure to meet business objectives, difficulty in changing and adopting, and problems with interpersonal skills. So this is what I wanted to say. And what have changed if you talk about the current pandemic situation? What have changed in the pharmaceutical leadership over the over the years is there are multiple changes that has been happened over the years. Leadership has begun to consciously focus on happy and healthy workspace. We call about work-life balance. I mean, this is something which was not existing 20 years down the back of life. So this is marked in, there is also a marked increase in the common theme of expectation from the present leaders to build energy and resilience to cope with the fast changing landscape of pharmaceutical environment. Also, I mean, with the increased globalization, if we talk, there is an increased leadership expectation to lead, diverse global teams going beyond comfort zone of local as well as regional teams. Today leaders are asked to deliver more with tighter R&D budgets, not so impressive pipeline, and a faster pace of time to stay competitive in the pharmaceutical world. This is of course something which is inevitable for a leader, but then innovation is going to open up many avenues of areas. So leaders, if we talk about this, so, I mean, the final talk on the leadership aspect I would like to say is that, we need to remember one thing, that leadership is not something which you practice only at a workplace. It also teaches valuable lessons and provides us the, tool to improve quality of the life as well. So relating this to the current situation, as we say, while, COVID-19 has faced pharma companies to focus on the immediate priorities, like, strategizing for tomorrow may be the key to thrive in the future. Leaders of the pharma companies are today, if we talk, they are in the midst of unprecedented changes. So while this was true, I mean, even before the pandemic, but and ensuring the economic downtown have brought out a sea change in the way organization looks at the road ahead. So pharma companies, if we talk, they are up against a fresh set of challenges even as the pandemic has spurred adoption of technologies and other innovations. If we talk in the current scenario, I would say means maintaining and expanding R&D technology, information, and the global market presence are the immediate focus areas. So if we talk what could be the thing about we talked about the leadership challenges. If we talk further about the R&D, so I would say that the pharmaceutical sector emerges in 2021 with very great prospect, exciting prospect. The race for COVID-19 vaccine has definitely simulated innovation across the industry, but the sector has been building momentum for years, I would say. Prior to the current pandemic, I mean, if you talk about the UK health and pharma industry, it was growing with an annual rate of somewhere around 8.8%, as seen from 2015 to 2020. So R&D here plays a massive role in this particular growth. With annual pharma R&D spending in UK, if we talk about, I mean, it is climbing from 6.9% somewhere in 2018 to 2019. So compared to an increase of somewhere around, maybe about roughly about 3% of R&D spending across the industries. 2020, if we talk, it was an even bigger year than the expected, with the pharma sector thrown to the limelight as a potential savior, a messiah of the pandemic. So, but then funding was channelized into pharma in record amounts, I would say. I mean, supercharging R&D activities. So, public confidence is high in the industry, and if you talk of a recent, research report based on the survey of business across the globe has shown that those within the pharma sector remain positive about their ability to drive forward R&D spend. In this research conducted somewhere around May last year, about somewhere 60% of the respondents in the pharma sector expected their R&D budgets to be either somewhat or significantly increased over the next 3 years. So one thing which is very much certain is pharma has entered into 2021 with a greater presence, with more funding than before, and for a long time, I mean, this pharma has been struggled with this image. But then the success of COVID-19 treatments is changing this narrative and provides the pharmaceutical sector with a wider investor interest and public support. So as I say, COVID-19, if I say, I mean, this pandemic situation, it has provided both opportunities as well as risk in the R&D. Pharma companies have been racing to discover, effective treatments, about COVID vaccines and all those stuff. So over about 200 treatments are already under consideration. Around more than 100 vaccines are under development as of June 2020. June. So while the pandemic has created opportunities for the pharma industry to demonstrate industry value, it has also led to potential short-term challenges. The direct efforts of the pandemic include, suspended trials of other than COVID-19. So, I mean, the focus shifted towards only the specific COVID-19, and non-COVID things were, suspended as of moment. So this delayed the project launches, an inability of the sales force to carry out in-person visits, what we say, supply chain disruption. Supply chain disruption was the most devastating, I would say, and overall delays in the drug commercialization. So the pandemic has decreased the number of novel late-stage assets, which already were declining in the last few years. But then also merger and acquisition activity was a bit slower. Other challenges include the global economic volatility, uncertainty regarding the supply chain is also going forward. All this, increasingly calling all the leaders to develop, implement and sustain new innovative. So while I talk about these challenges, and while these challenges, continue to disrupt the industry, the pandemic, I would say, has also propelled, multiple opportunities in R&D. The cutting edge of pharma, I mean, it really knows, no bound. And but there are several key trends like to define the sector in the near future. And the most important trend which is going to define in the near future is collaboration. Collaboration, as I mentioned earlier, also collaboration will be even more important. The last 5 years, we've seen an increasing demand for firms to pool resources, improve or develop products in a modern world in increasing technical demanding. So, leading a more complex development activities at same time, as well as economic and regulatory pressures as, squeezing the margins. So developing a new drug, as we all know, developing a new drug or a treatment from scratch has historically been incredibly expensive, and a long process. It takes about, more than a decade, if not before a company roots here. So collaboration, if we talk about collaboration, it will not only allow, the burden of the cost to spread across multiple companies, but the pooling of expertise and knowledge leading to faster breakthroughs. If we talk, one of the most recent collaborations which I can talk about is one which happened, 29th of last month, 2021, where, pharma majors like Cipla, Dr. Reddy's, MQ, Sun Pharma, Torrent, they took an initiative to collaborate and conduct a common trial for investigation and antiviral drug molnupiravir. This was to save the cost and serve the pandemic purpose. So this is the recent example of collaboration. We're going to see money much more in the coming future as well. And so the next key point I would like to say, apart from the collaboration, is going to be the big tech. So big tech is going, something which is going to stay here. The big tech slowly infiltrating all the industries and pharma. Pharma is of course not an exception. So it has been building a presence in the sector over the past few years and is certain to accelerate with technology playing an increasing role in the pharma. Whether that's machine learning or big data, many organizations are looking to implement technology to make subsequent R&D activities more efficient. Technologies are being deployed across number of areas, whether it could be with speeding up the drug discovery, could be reducing the R&D cost, or maybe lowering the failure rates of clinical trials. When I talk about this thing, so I would not miss this thing that when Novartis and Microsoft they announced their partnership, they stated that its aim was to leverage data and artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence, yes, as I mean the other speaker also mentioned, it is one area which is going to transform how the medicines are discovered, developed and commercialized. So big tech is here to stay in the pharma, but how the relationship between the big tech and the big pharma that plays out in the future is yet to be determined. So another key point would be digitalizing the patient experience. Like of course this is something which may not be directly linked with the R&D, but of course as an extended part of the R&D, like all the pharma, I mean it's but sure that digitalizing its services, this change is affecting the entire healthcare and the economics. From the diagnosis to the treatment, drug research and management of chronic conditions. The digitalization of care, offers more personalized and holistic experience for patients. So due to wearable technologies, patients can get updates, real-time updates, I would say, about the status of health, enabling them to seek care immediately. So this provides better level of care comparison to the regular GP checks, which may discover health risk later, adding risk to the patients. So COVID-19 has also accelerated the digitalization process. As GPs have to keep physical visits to a minimum, and phone calls are often inefficient. Many practices have changed their online from and video conferencing services. So this is one thing which is good. And of course, I mean, if we talk digitalization is, it's slowly revolutionizing the healthcare experience with many areas of development still to be completed. So lastly, I would like to say that, the next key thing about, sustaining things is going to be the new frontiers. So the new frontiers of the pharmaceutical growth, I mean, it increasingly exciting. I mean, innovation facilities often facilitates, further innovations, and boundaries of the standard pharmaceutical progress are, pushed to a new points. The sector has, newfound importance and growth at a time when the market is opening, new avenues for research, whether that being, artificial intelligence being used for new solutions or, faster studies and all those, documentation. So with that, I mean, I would sum up saying that, R&D has, always been has always been the beating heart of pharmaceutical sector. The greater focus, on, sustainability and development of several COVID-19 vaccines will likely see a different focus for pharma R&D in 2021, but also a different perception. So that's all I would like to end my presentation. Thank you so much.
Mr. Pujari, thank you so much. It was a delight hearing you, especially a different aspect of pharmaceuticals in LPC Global, just what Mr. Praveen mentioned. So we learned from you that the leadership qualities have been same throughout the industries, even the resources are same. What differentiates a leader from the other is the collaborative approach, especially in present times where cross-functional coordination is the key to success. We also discussed about the R&D, especially the budget aspect. The expenditure in R&D has been low. The rising healthcare cost is basically the reason why people are not investing into R&D, but that's actually not the good thing. That is stopping us to explore more opportunities. We also learned that especially COVID has, influenced the leadership as well as the R&D. What we often say that hard times create strong leaders. So what we have seen in recent past, innovation. Exactly. So especially the COVID-19, we have seen in just 6 months, India was a net importer of like PPE kits and gloves. And then in just 6 months, we have managed to be a net exporter of these things. Even for vaccines, we have seen how fast we have collaborated all the resources that we have, and somehow even the whole world has, it was unprecedented to have a vaccine in just short span of time. So yes, COVID-19 has some good aspects as well. And yes, the mergers and acquisitions have been slowed down. There are a lot of delays in other projects due to COVID-19. But in terms of our resilience and our ability to come back, COVID-19 has been a good teacher so far. So we also discussed about the use of technology into the pharmaceutical business. That is the same thing which our first speaker has also mentioned. Yeah. Digitalizing patient experience is a very good thing. We can be ensured of data integrity. Our predictions can be more, more accurate and safe, especially in drug trials. So technology is the next big thing that we should, as a pharmaceutical practitioners, should embrace. Thank you, Mr. Pujari. Thank you so much. I would now like to hand over to Mr. Praveen Pandey if we are having some questions from our YouTube viewers. Mr. Praveen, please.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. There is one common question for LPC global platform. It could be opted from Mr. Raghu, Mr. Himanshu, including Saurav, and of course, Mr. Mahesh. We were talking about supply chain management from Mr. Raghu as well as Mr. Himanshu. And Mr. Mahesh also touched some of that. Then we touched about the pandemic situation, how it has been changed. The situation, the question comes from quality assurance person. Like because of pandemic in plant, people are working with less manpower. At the same time, cyclone has happened in Arabian Ocean. So the typical congestion is running on port. The situation is goods are ready and the time we have very less, the LC is going to expire. So in that situation, can we ship these goods under quarantine method? Still, the goods COA is not issued. It's under quarantine. So it can be dispatched. Should I open this question to, I think, Mr. Himanshu first, if he is ready to reply on this? Else we'll move.
Yes, Praveen, if I have understood it correctly, that it's more of a fear, right? That what will happen to the goods, isn't it?
Yes.
Right. So it again depends on the authorities. If they allow, right? If all the documents are in place, if they allow, definitely you should ship now, because this is not first time in the ocean when such kind of things has happened. So it happens most of the time. Sometimes we are aware of that, and most of the times we are not aware of that, because it happens in between. It doesn't touch the borders. So I think he should.
Thank you on behalf of Quality Assurance Manager.
Welcome.
Okay.
No, yes, so, if we have some authorization from the authorities of the importing country, definitely it can be done. We have seen even during normal times, whenever there's a shortage of a drug in a country, the registration norms and import norms have been reduced. So if there is a requirement, definitely the receiving country would be ready to import. But we have to channelize this to the respective authorities, because especially in trade finance, the banks usually need all these clearing, authorizations for clearing these documents. So that's one thing can be done. In my experience, yes, it can be done.
Yeah, just to add my experience also, what Mr. Himanshu said, it can be done. So, like the importing country, there are two sectors. One is the private and the government. For example, I'd like to take an example of Myanmar recently with all this political instability. UNOPS, Mr. Himanshu will know. So they want to get down some drugs, and then I mean it's a government body, and with less documents, and they were able to leverage their status, and then we were able to export. So I think it's all possible, looking at the different perspectives of how the market and the dynamics is behaving.
Mr. Mahesh, if you wish to add anything on this.
Yeah,
Or
that's
hope
what I
you-
mean. Yeah, that's what I was just about to speak about the same thing. Like in the current situation, I mean, there are many companies who are seeking emergency authorization. So with the minimum information, they can have a straightforward talk with the authority, because the authority is someone who's going to take a call, and we can have be very clear and transparent in our discussions and put forward the current situation. But having a right set of documents, I mean, the valid documents like COA and all the other stuff, dossier and all, we can definitely have a discussion and seek for emergency authorization in such cases. That is definitely good.
Thank you everyone. One more question on behalf from Life Pharma Coalition. The situation, many of Indian pharmaceutical companies taking calcium or iron as medicine, as a pharmaceutical product, calcium citrate, but will keep Sri Lanka or somewhere in Philippines, sometimes in Myanmar, they are importing as a nutraceutical product. So how it could be easily possible if Indian company is making pharmaceutical product, and so it goes under registration by nutraceutical, or just you have to take import license for nutraceutical?
Yeah.
How it is?
So it happens like nutraceutical supplements are normally considered supplement products. Now, if you take in Sri Lanka, there is an import duty. I'm sure in other countries also, because these products doesn't need a registration. But then now the regulation is going to come even for these products. You need registration. So if you take in Southeast Asia, Singapore doesn't need. To give an example, like in Singapore, like they don't need registration. You can import supplements. In Sri Lanka, you can import. And the countries like Cambodia, Malaysia, Vietnam, I'm sure that Saurabh also will know. So they require registration. It is considered as a typical pharmaceutical product. It will go through that cycle of registration. So, but there are few countries which are exceptional. But then it also the price ceiling because of the import duty, which is the main factor. So there's about 80%, 90% import duty is there. So I'm sure Saurabh must have experience in Sri Lanka also, like there's about 100%, 100% the duty, and in some countries also the import duty is so high, and then it's unable to fix the MRP. So these are the challenging in supplements.
As a manufacturer, if you have an option of like registering your product as a medical food product, it is better to proceed this way. It is a difficult entry barrier, but once if you clear it, you still have a significant advantage over the import duties. So otherwise, because if a general food product is considered as a FMCG product in most of the countries, the import duties are as high as 80 to 90% on CIF costs. So in order to avoid these costs, it is advisable to register the product as a medical food substance.
Okay. Mr. Himanshu, if you wish to add some input in this.
As Saurabh said, right, it is always advised to avoid the import duty. If you can, go via that channel, that would be helpful.
If you
Especially,
can.
yeah, if you can, you cannot bypass.
Because getting a product registered as a medical food product is a difficult challenge altogether.
Many times, in my experience, some of the products, the moment you go in Philippines and present in front of Philippines FDA, sometimes they become very regulated, right? For some of the products, they require more and more data.
True.
So it's nutraceutical, or we are considering as a nutraceutical and supplements. Probably they are not.
They are not.
True.
Yeah, so I mean,
it
that's what
was,
there are some products which can be manufactured, under with a FSSAI license, and some requires an actual drug license. So I mean, the choice, we need to, because if we go to manufacture under a drug license, the compliance set of compliance is totally different when we comes to talk about the food supplements, which is under, FSSAI license. So of course, depending upon the regulatory, depending upon the country which you are going to, supply, you can discuss and take upon, further.
thank you so much for this real, actual, practical insights. And many people are hearing, still questions are onboarding, but we are running with shortage of time. I would like to hand over this session from here to Mr. Raman, uh, who can look, and special cordially thanks from our side.
Yeah, thank you so much. So I will go at the last part. Last part always into me. So I will like just to thanks to all the live pharma coalitions LPC 63 global leadership, a live audience from the Facebook and YouTube audience viewers. Then I would like to say thanks to all the three eminent speakers, the Himashi Dwivedi, Mahesh Pujari, and K. Gauru Shankar, to all of them. Thank you so much to all both our the panelists and the moderator, and keep watching us on to LPC on every Sunday 11 a.m. So today is because of the global that we will have a global session 2 at evening time 6 p.m. as per the Indian Standard Times. So do join with us on the LPC 63 Global today at evening time. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
It has been
Thank you,
pleasure.
everyone.
Thank you, everyone. It
Thank
has
you
been
so much.
pleasure.
Yeah.
Thank you.